Right, so the match you're about to see is the Golden Rod Qualifier at Lindholme near Doncaster. Now, the Golden Rod is a feeder only event. You can't use bombs, you can't catapult or loose feed, anything like that. And typically it's a 60 peg match split into 3 zones of 20. So you've got to win your 20 peg zone to qualify, go through to the grand final at Larford every spring, where the winner gets 12 grand. So it's well worth fishing. Now, I've been very lucky. I've qualified for the final from Lindholme for the last 2 years. I think off Loco and Laurels, and so it's been quite kind to me. And this is actually, I think it's been a bit of a write-off this year, unfortunately, on a personal level, and it's about the only qualifier I've been able to fish of anything this year. I think I might have fished a Maven match this in March, but I basically had a lot of complications from having COVID in April, a lot of long-term complications. That I was out of action proper for about 4 months, just stuck at home. Then I had a bit of a lift and was able to go fishing in August, to have a few days rest every time I go. And I basically got like ME and chronic fatigue, which I'm now having special treatment and osteopathy to try and get rid of. Very, very slowly getting there. But I can go fishing, which is the main thing. Hoping to draw sort of the middle of Loco, the middle of Beaches for the match, which is a section, which is one of the zones, and the other 2 zones were on the Bonsai, and then the other final zone was the Laurels. And those 2 zones were probably going to be harder but fairer. So I've drawn peg 19 on Beaches, which is not ideal at all. Far from it. There's a big main bowl on Beaches with an arm on either end of it, and I've drawn just off the main bowl in this narrow bit, which is going up the top arm towards the island. And in winter, there's hardly a carp there, to be honest. There's a few F1s and skimmers around that area on the pole, but typically I just couldn't see how I was going to qualify from there. So as I talked about earlier, it's a feeder only, so you have to be a bit clever. So I've used a feeder like a bomb to start off with, and I've started by casting all around in front of me to the left, working out a bit, and also had a few chucks up to the island, which was quite a way to my left, which is the only part of my peg I thought I might have a chance of a carp, and it never happened. Not surprisingly, it just didn't happen. Eventually I found a few F1s, a little pocket of F1s about an hour in, on corn, just in the middle really. No feed, and they were decent fish. I had 4 of them, about £2 a piece, but was going nowhere, and they dried up. And to be honest, the whole lake was fishing very hard, and we knew there was a few anglers on Loco, one in particular, Jamie Snedker, catching big carp. So to be honest, halfway through the match, it looked like it was a lost cause. So sometimes on these qualifiers, I think on these qualifiers, you've always got to start by giving yourself the chance of winning or qualifying, and that's what I've done with bread and corn. But half the time you've got to accept you're not physically on enough fish to be able to qualify. And so at that point, I've decided to abandon that and just go solely down the route of targeting silverfish, because I was getting a few little indications on the tip from Ide. The lake had a big stocking of Ide earlier this year. So I've changed tactics completely. I've ripped off my hair rigs and put on a straight 16 hook, bit longer hook length. Got some old maggots out, and I've gone for these Ide. Sometimes, match fishing is about making these decisions. You've got to be aware of what's happening around you. If there was other people on Beaches, a mile ahead of me catching carp, then it would have been a pointless exercise. I'd have been flogging I'd have been a busy fool. But because it was fishing hard, £20, £30 looked a good weight on the day on there. I thought I'd already got, you know, £8 to £10. If I could get some, top that up with silverfish, I might be all right, because the lake section prizes on these events are worth winning. They're typically 50, 60, 70 quid, so you get your money back at least. So I've gone for these eyed. Started a new lineup about 12-13 metres, just under arm in. And as you can see from the footage, I've caught them in quite well in spells, but the problem was keeping them coming. And I'm no expert at fishing for small fish on a feeder by any means, quite the opposite. So it was a bit of a bodge job. It was with my bomb rod. Could probably have done with a proper feeder link on rather than a cage, an inline cage. But, you know, I had to make do, and as I say, it was a bit of a rush thing halfway through. But I did start catching, and there were nice fish, you know, 3, 4, 5 ounce fish, a lot of these. So it didn't take long to get a bit of weight in the net with them. So I'm just going to show you my setup for the match. The rod was a 10-foot Horizon Pro commercial bomb, which is new for 2020. Really good rods these, especially this time of year for, you know, when you're fishing light tips. You're also looking to fish light feeders. I'm really big on fishing light feeders and bombs, you know, 8-10 gram, especially when it's this flat, because I just think you're going to spook the fish less, and you're going to give yourself more of a chance of catching as soon as the feeder touches bottom, which happened a lot, especially during this day. It's a 3000 reel Horizon X, needs a clean. There's still some ground bait on that, and that was just a bit of a longer hook length of about, started on 12 inch of 012, which is fairly heavy for silverfish, but I wanted to be able to swing them in. 16 MXC5 PTFE hook, and I did shorten that to about, I think I shortened it about 9 or 10 inches probably, which was a lot better. Had some really positive bites on that. I used a 3 square wire cage, and I think that was probably better for me on the day than fishing something like a maggot feeder, because it was just quicker. The bait's just going to come out so much quicker when you're fishing for speed. And that was basically, I put the maggots in there and I plugged it with ground bait, which was the Dynamite Milled Expander Black. Brilliant mix this time of year for when you want to catch a few F1s. A lot of people who fish for F1s at places like Tunnel use this mix, especially with maggots. And it just put a bit of a cloud in the water and just kept the maggots in. And as I say, because I was underarming, I only plugged the bottom. So when I underarmed it out, quite often a lot of the maggots had come out just before it touched the water, or just on impact. So it just drew the fish in from a wider area and meant, you know, I could catch a few virtually on the drop. So say, just fish single maggot hook baits, a big hook, and as I say, it was just a bit of a bodge job on the day, but it worked. And I say, I started catching these eyed, did fish it quite a little bit further out than you probably would if you were going for them, you know, targeting them on their own, because I fished probably 12-13 metres, just with the idea that if there was any F1s or bonus fish around, I'd give myself the chance of catching them. In hindsight, I could have probably fished closer, but I did catch two 2-pound F1s as well in amongst the eyed, so it was worth going that little bit extra few metres, I think. And as I say, in hindsight, in an ideal world, I'd have put a closer line in as well and swapped between the two, but it was just too late in the day for that, because I just didn't expect to be eyed fishing on this lake on the day. So that's the end of the match. It's not really panned out how I thought. So as I say, at the start of the match, I started on bread. I've been chucking round up towards the point a little bit, but I can't really go very far that way. And then up towards the island, gone right up there. You can see at the end of my finger there. Right up to that island there, but I've just been a bit hampered by these trees here, so I want to really fire the rig down there underneath the trees. Not caught anything up there. That was the only chance I thought of having a carp. And I've caught those 4 F1s on a tiny little cage feeder, fishing like a bomb, just in the middle there. It took a couple of hours, and as soon as I've started increasing the feed a bit, the eyed have started moving in, and they've been topping up there near the island for the first few hours, and I haven't really been pestered by them. And as soon as I've started up in a little bit of feed in the cage feed, the micras, a couple of bits of corn, they've
they've just come straight onto it. So I've then started fishing for them after halfway through the match. Fished about 13 metres just under arming, and I've caught them quite quickly in spells, as you can see from some of the footage there. So I've ended up, I've had a couple more looks for F1s, but it was because it was fishing hard. I thought I'd just get my head down on the hide and, you know, see if I can get a section win or lake win, something like that, because Jamie Snedker on Loco 41, we knew he was catching big carp from the early stages of the match, really. So as we're in with them, that's the zone taken care of, really. So Jamie's won our zone. He's had £50. I'd imagine that'll probably win the match as well. As I say, it's been hard. I've ended up with those 6 F1s and the rest of those eyed, which you could just about swing in. I've ended up with 24.10, which I could see it was fishing hard. Luckily, has won the lake section, so pretty happy with that. Well done to all the qualifiers today. It's not me this year, unfortunately, but try again next year, because I don't think I've got any more qualifiers, and I'm not travelling for this competition with the tiers and things, so I'm not travelling very far for this. So if you like the channel, if you like these videos, please consider hitting the subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time for another live match. Ta.